Hello, everybody. Today we are analyzing my World Shogi I can't talk. My World Shogi League match from yesterday against Skykeeper. I played as Sente and Skykeeper played as Gote. Now, before we get started, you can already see the graph. I was debating on hiding the graph. I even have this little button to hide the graph. So let me know what you prefer, but I decided to just analyze it with the graph to see where we went wrong or where I went wrong and where we both went wrong and where we both played the correct move. And honestly, this is the first time I have seen this graph. I just pressed analyze, and then while I was analyzing, I was messing with my overlay settings. And honestly, I kind of like the graph. Like, this is how the game felt. Like, this is exactly how it felt whenever I was playing it. And I'm glad to see that what I was thinking was kind of projected onto the graph. Like, whenever it starts to dip, because, spoiler alert, if you can't tell, white is on the bottom, black is on the top. Gote did win this, and I was not playing Gote, so I lost this match. But just seeing it on the graph, seeing, like, that's how I felt playing, was just this steady loss. And it was kind of unfortunate. I did obviously not like that feeling. But it was a fantastic game, so I'm excited to get started on it. So, let's go over the moves. As you can see, I'm just going to give a basic explanation of the engine stuff. The top one, the one right here, you can't see my mouse, but the top engine move candidate is Static Rook, and the bottom top candidate is Ranging Rook. So that second candidate is for Ranging Rook. And then I have on the graph whether they have mate on that move, or they have threat mate, or they have no mate. So you can kind of see, like, when threat mate comes into play, when she comes into play, stuff like that. That's one of my favorite engines. I've been messing around with engine analysis a lot. Now I'm finally excited to show y'all kind of what I've been doing. So, move one, Ureshino stuff. I'm sure some of you have seen me play quite a bit. Just Ureshino stuff. Just bring the silver up. Skykeeper, I mentioned he's a third file Rook player, so I was not surprised to see him play third file Rook here. He just swings his Rook over. And here I was expecting a normal game. I was expecting Ishida versus Ureshino. And honestly, like, I was ready for it. I've been studying a lot. And just looking at this graph, here we just both get our kings to safety, both away from the attack, because this game is about to be brutal. We are scooting our kings away from the attack, because this is gonna be a bloodbath soon. Scoot our kings over. I bring the bishop down to help defend against this attack, because this is more defensive than it is offensive here at this point, because if you didn't watch the match live, you're in for a treat, because this match gets pretty brutal. It was brutal to play, but I learned a lot from it, and going through the engine, I'm really happy to see it be, like, so even here. It says, like, it basically, the graph is perfectly even here, and I think that's fantastic. Here I just push static. I'm ready. Like, look at that graph. It's so just, like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's just like, this is good gameplay. Now, Skykeeper brings up silver. This is turn 20. Skykeeper brings up his silver to 2-2. I saw this move, and I thought, okay, his Rook is now not going to 2-2. He is playing a more defensive third file Rook. That was the worst assumption. I, like, looking back on it, I was probably, like, so nervous that I was, like, in my head, I was confident that that was the truth. But no, I really should have thought more about it. Like, my nerves were kind of getting to me, but not to where it affected my gameplay, but more to where it affected my mindset. Here is where it affected my mindset, because I was so certain this was locking in a defensive position, a defensive third file, rather than an opposing Rook. And I told myself, if he was playing opposing Rook, I wouldn't win this battle. Just because, or if, Or if he was, it would be a brutal battle. And I bring up silver. I'm ready. I'm ready to attack. I'm ready to bring up this pawn. He brings back bishop. Here, I was proud of this move. I've never actually done a vanguard pawn like this, but I was really proud of this one. Bam. I do pawn up here. And that's to prevent the pawn here allowing bishop to take control of this diagonal. Because that is a classic way of beating Ureshino, is if we go back, we'll branch off a bit. If let's say I do a normal move like that, suddenly this diagonal is open, right? Suddenly this diagonal is open, and let's say I continue my attack. He can't take because my bishop covers. They have something like this. If I try to defend, all of a sudden this file is completely opened up, and they can even push this pawn if they want to, pinning my silver. So, in order to prevent this, because the engine starts to dip actually into Gote's favor here, in order to prevent this variation, which I've played this variation many times, it's not bad for me, but I didn't want to deal with it in this style of game. So in order to prevent that, I push this vanguard pawn, because now if he pushes, I take. He can still do this bishop diagonal, but now all of a sudden I have complete control of the center. And look at that graph. So that was my goal. It was to prevent that. But instead, after my vanguard pawn, he does silver up to 3-3. And this is where my mind, this is where I started to panic a little bit because I realized what silver 3-3 meant. It meant he's swinging his rook to 2-2. And he's going to put a lot of pressure on the same square I'm putting pressure on. This is a chess match now. And I was not prepared for this. I should have been. Like I said, I should have really thought more. The graph is still even here, by the way. So it's still like fine for me. It's just this is where some panic set in because I hadn't prepared for a situation like this. When in all reality, he plays opposing rook. He played it last season in World Shogi League against Team America. And I should have been ready for it this season as well. I regret this silver move. Here, I kind of realize he's going to play opposing rook. So I'm trying to get some structure developed so I can kind of have an attack here. But I regret this silver move. The engine, let's see, what does the engine kind of want me to do here? Yeah, it says 4-8 silvers. Honestly, it says it's the good move. I regret it because I didn't want to battle on this side. But it says 4-8 silver is the good move, so like I said, this is my first time looking at the engine. I'm looking at it with y'all. That's cool. I guess I played an engine move. So far, I mean, even game. It says for him to just do 5-2 gold, complete the Mino, but I believe he swings over his rook. Yep. And engine's still completely even. In fact, black is slightly ahead, which I'm actually surprised by, but just slightly. The numbers really don't matter. It's all about this graph, just how that line is. The second you see a yellow or red mark, that's when you know a dip is about to happen. I brought up silver to here, not only to kind of make pressure on the center, because I have pressure here, and if I bring up silver here, maybe I could switch to central. I brought up silver. I thought about this move for, I think, a solid, yeah, it says right here. I thought about this move for 4 minutes and 51 seconds. Because I bring up silver. He's obviously not going to want me to push the center. He's going to push this pawn, forcing me to bring my silver back. And suddenly I have defense on this pawn rather than this pawn. And if he tries to force me out, I have this bishop diagonal to cover. So this was a defensive move rather than an aggressive move. And I'm pretty proud of it because it was going to be hard to develop my pawn here with opposing rook. I'm curious to see what it says I should do. It says 3-6 pawn. Yeah, it just says commit to the attack here. Yeah, commit to the attack. If I commit to the attack, it's going to be a brutal game. I mean, I'm like, this is... I'll go over engine stuff probably on my own just to study this own variation. I just wanted to show this. This is the YouTube engine analysis part of it. Nothing too deep. I don't like getting sidetracked by variations. I like doing that in my own personal time. Again, let me know what you think about that. But yeah, I was afraid of this happening because suddenly my bishop is blocked and they have pressure on this pawn. Because if I take, it's bad, it looks like, right? It's good? It's good for me? Don't tell me it's good for me. Don't tell me it's good for me. That's gonna be upsetting. Oh, wait, what do I do here? What do I do here? 4-5 silver. Really? 4-5 silver? From 4-6. What? Why? Hold on. Why? This is by the way the variation chart. You can go through why it says different 4-5. Got it. Yeah, that looks right. That looks right. Because now I'm putting pressure here and targeting. Okay, I like this actually. I like this a lot. Why? Oh, this is frustrating. It says black profit now in the variations. Oh, I should have just played it out. Cool. Man, I should have just committed. I got afraid. I was okay, you know what? My nerves did affect my match. I take it back. My nerves completely affected my match. I played defensive here. I should have just played my normal game. Wow. Okay, well, back to the normal game. That's going to be an interesting variation to read out later, because that's actually pretty cool. I like that. Back to the normal game. I push up silver, expecting him to pawn push, and then bringing back my silver as a defensive move. So I bring back my silver, covering here, and now this diagonal is covered. He can't force out my silver, and this is covered. Now, I realize I have enough tempo to castle, and in reality, I should have prepared for what's coming next. He pushes. That's fine. I realize if I take, I didn't want to get into that variation. But as the engine says, I should have taken. If I take here, silver takes, and then it's simply saying 2-5 pawn drop. And me and Skykeeper actually went over this variation on 81 Dojo, and it did look a lot better for me because he backs up, and suddenly I have a vanguard pawn, and a lot more tempo in this situation. And look at that graph; it's still perfectly even. I should have drawn this out. I was so worried about this pawn developing and this bishop developing. I just realized he had more pressure on this square. But in reality, if this is how I read it, I should have read it out a little bit more. I had the time to do it. And in all honesty, it was the nerves. I wanted to develop my castle a bit more. So I bring up my gold. And this is where the graph starts to get a little wobbly. Simply because gold up, graph is even again. So it's saying right here for him to take the pawn and to develop his vanguard. So if Skykeeper takes pawn here, it's actually really good for Gote. Wow. If he takes pawn, yeah, that graph dips. I take, and then 1-3 knight. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, this looks like a bad variation, to be honest. I mean, Skykeeper also went over this one. This one didn't look very good. Wow. Man, both of us were nervous. Both of us were nervous, as you could tell. We actually talked a bit about wow, this is funny. We actually talked a bit because we were watching Jinro's match before this. Unfortunately, Jinro lost his match. It was a very close match. But we were talking about how nervous we were and just watching Jinro's match and how it was making us feel. And I guess we both were too nervous to attack here. That's funny. We were both so afraid of initiating combat because this is a complex scenario. Like, this is complex. There's a lot to read out here. You're not just reading out, like, 5 moves ahead. You're reading out an entire, like, 30, not 30, but, like, a solid 15, 20 moves out on who's going to get the Rook promoted first. Who wants to initiate an attack like that? This is a complex game. Here, I actually thought about this move for another 4 minutes. I didn't know what to do here. I genuinely didn't. I was trying to read out this pawn stuff. I didn't want them to develop their silver, especially on this row. But with this silver defense here, honestly, it would have been better. Yeah, Graf just agrees I should have taken. But as I said, we were both afraid to take. So, I thought about it for a while. And I saw this. I saw all this pressure over here. I saw my bishop. And I realized, I was like, huh. If with all this pressure being in a stalemate here, I have, like, tempo. I have time to develop some of these pieces. Some of my castle. And in reality, I maybe should have scooted my king over. I was afraid to develop silver like this because it would block my bishop diagonal and I wouldn't be able to fight back. But in reality, I mean, it would have worked out well. Me and Skykeeper also went over that variation. It would have worked out well. Same thing here. Something like this. I back up. Oh, knight. It's similar variation to before. He still wins that. I was just afraid to not have my bishop involved. So I didn't want to block it. And in reality, I wish I had developed my silver. I really do wish I had. But there's a lot of variations here. There we go. I pushed this pawn in order to develop my knight. And if this bishop was going to... I don't like developing this pawn, first off. It is the weakness of my castle. Because this bishop diagonal can destroy me. I have nothing around here. But his bishop isn't going anywhere. This silver is a really hard placement. It's not going to be moving for a while. This pawn's not going to be moving up for a while. I wanted to develop my knight. Possibly put pressure on the center. As well as realizing that this isn't weak to develop my knight. However, that did actually come back to bite me later in the game. Just by moving my knight up. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So, this move was terrifying. Yeah, I didn't like that. He climbed his gold. As soon as he climbed his gold, I told myself, I was like, wow. This is gonna suck. This is a lot of pressure. And now he can suddenly push pawns with generals reinforcing it. And that's exactly what happened. And I realized, I was like, I don't know how I can have the tempo to stop this. And as the engine's still saying, it's wanting me to take this pawn. But I didn't read that out. I pushed knight up. Developed my knight. Graph is still somewhat even. It's very much in his favor. It didn't like that I pushed knight up so early. And he pushes this pawn. Now, here, it says this is a dubious move for Skykeeper. It says it's a dubious one because I can simply take with the bishop or I can attack. If I just attack, they can't really ignore it. So, I take with the bishop. And y'all can't see, but there are actually 2 variations for both static and ranging rook. And the other one is bishop takes here. Bishop takes, you just get a free pawn. And this game really did come down to who had more pawns. They climb gold. And here I want to delve pretty deep into the engine because this was a lot. It's saying, it's recommending I push here. Or, wow, the ranging rook engine's kind of crazy. It's recommending I take with bishop here. That's wild. Or 5, 7. Yeah, no, it's just recommending I take with pawn. Wow. Yeah, it recommends. This is what I wanted to see. I backed up bishop here because honestly, this looks terrifying, right? And even the static rook engine, it kind of suggested, it's like, hey, back up bishop to here. Or back up bishop, it says, what, 5-7? Yeah, it's wanting me to back up my bishop to here, maybe activate it like this, put pressure on the center. But the main candidate is this line. This is crazy. I would have had to been on like some serious drugs to have seen a move like this. But honestly, it's true. This is a good move. This is why engine analysis is so good, because I studied this a little bit with Skykeeper. We didn't go into like some huge depth, just because both of our brains were completely fried. I'm actually recording this engine analysis the day after. I have to upload this video within 2 hours. That's also why I'm not going into complete depth. But our brains were fried after the match was over, so we didn't do much human analysis. And I know there was some human analysis on Time Zombie's stream, but I personally, I'm just gonna be honest, I hate human analysis. If engines exist, human analysis is cool with like friends. You're like, oh, this move could have been better here. That's fine. But if it's like a serious match and you're just playing on the computer, use engine. Human analysis makes me, I'm going off on like a tangent. Human analysis makes me annoyed because it goes off on all these little variations, and it's just like, I have access to an engine. Why not just pop it into an engine and actually see the best move instead of guessing what the best move is for like an hour? And it's so sorry, tangent over. I don't like human analysis. I like engine stuff. But we'll continue on. Take here. This is, of course, still the variation. Saying that I am in the lead here. And here it is actually saying black profit. Now, of course, engine gets kind of wonky. Like, it would be hard to expect gold, silver trade, stuff like that. But here, yeah, it's saying black profit, just by a hair, but it's a lot better than what we get into. So what I actually did was I backed up bishop out of fear. I should have backed it up to here. It would have been a lot more active. I was afraid to back it up to here just because I wouldn't be able to climb silver to cover this pawn, but in reality, I should have backed it up to here. Had more pressure on the center and this diagonal. I actually ended up wasting tempo later, moving that bishop around, so it would have been nice to develop it to 5-7. But continuing on, he takes this pawn, and this is where the graph just starts to dip. This is a game of pawns, and I realized that right now. I needed more pawns to put pressure here. I wanted to develop my knight, put pressure here, but I needed more pawn drops. So I pushed pawn here, expecting them to take, and then maybe some miracle would happen with knight, pawn drop here, and then I could have pressure on the center. And whenever I develop my knight, it allows me to develop my bishop to here, or develop an edge attack like that. I was like ready. I was ready to fight in the center. This pawn was taken. I realized, I was like, I am not going to win this attack now. It is too late. And yeah, he actually doesn't retake that pawn, which I was surprised by. I was just like, oh, I get a free pawn now. And it puts pressure on his bishop. I should just take that. And that's what I did. I get a free pawn, get a free token. His bishop is pretty much forced to take it. If his bishop backs up, it's just a token sitting there, and there's not much his bishop can do. His bishop takes. And here I have 2 pawns. He has 2 pawns. I took some thinking here. I hit Byoyomi actually pretty soon. This is a 30-minute match, by the way. 30 minutes for both sides in a 60-second Byoyomi. And I actually hit Byoyomi pretty soon here because I thought a lot about these moves. Pawn drop here. It's suggesting that I actually do 5-4 pawn drop. 5-4 pawn drop is right here. Blocking this diagonal and being able to take with rook. And I actually kind of like that move. White still has the advantage in that case. But if we go into the analysis here, 5-4 still. putting pressure on the bishop. I actually ended up doing that here in a bit. Here, I wanted to put a lot of pressure on this square with my bishop. Because I knew if he took to silver, I at least get a pawn out of it. And I saw this pawn up, and I was just like, oh, I can back up and then move the bishop. And that's exactly what happened. I backed up, and I was like, oh, I place pawn here, he moves bishop, and then I can take pawn again. And I just messed up. That was just a mistake. His bishop here is so good. And look at the graph. It's so painful to look at. Yeah. Whenever he put his bishop here, I was upset. I realized I was very much in a losing position here. But the game's not over. The game is not over. I did not give up by any means at this point. I was gonna put pressure on that bishop's head, whether it killed me or it didn't. And then he took the pawn here, and I was just like, I don't have any pawn drops. I just needed pawns, and I was like, I was defeated by this move, and I was like, I'm gonna attack the bishop's head. He takes, and I was like, pawn drop. I don't have any pawns. Yeah, I was nervous during this match. Just watching this, I didn't realize how nervous I was. But yeah, just watching this, I made some dumb mistakes here. I get a pawn, I'm like, yay. They just pawn drop. And I was just like, shit. I was like, crap. Like, what do I do here? And here I was actually thinking about, after I brought bishop down, I was actually thinking about bringing silver back and then swinging over my rook and putting pressure that way. And now I bring up back bishop to the right square. I should have done that earlier. I should have brought it here earlier, because now I have bishop here and attack like that. Wow, my nerves really got to me. That just goes to show nerves matter. That's just where practice comes in. By playing more and more tournament matches, you start to feel less nerves. Now I did play Smash Bros tournaments and stuff like that for 7 years of my life, and I was still nervous in every single tournament I was in. So experience matters, but in the end you just have to find a way to control your nerves, and I have yet to find that, apparently. So here he puts pawn on the top of my silver, which actually, let's see what the engine wants it to do. What wants Skykeeper to do? 3-5 silver is pretty solid. Yeah, push solid. I was actually expecting silver here. I was expecting something like this. I bring back bishop to here. He pushes. I take. If he takes like this. Now, I know it wanted him to do silver here. I'm just going into what I thought might happen. Then I'm like, bam, I'm back in it. That was my plan. And of course, it's wanting him to do silver here, because there's just too much pressure here. There's just too much pressure. And now his rook is developed. Yeah. But luckily, he didn't do that. He did pawn drop. And here I was in a predicament. It's suggesting I do 4-7 silver just to back up. Because, I mean, it's going to be hard. He just backs up silver, and then all of a sudden I have no defense on the square. But here it looks rough. It says white profit by 740 points. It's looking rough for Sente here. And I end up dropping a pawn. In my opinion, Graf doesn't like it. But if he takes, I take. And I'm now putting pressure on his rook. If he does something like that, then I'm a little bit safer, you know? Like, or not even bishop sack there, but even just, like, I'm a little bit safer in this position, right? That was my goal. That was my goal. But Skykeeper's smart. He just takes. I take. And I was like, okay, this is what I predicted. He takes. I take. I was like, oh wait, no, that's the wrong variation. Wrong variation. No, he just takes his silver. Yeah, I thought he would try to take my silver here, but he just takes his silver. And And I thought this was good for me because I needed some generals to counterattack. But turned out not so good. He just takes with this rook. I wanted him to do gold up as before. I wanted to drop silver here. But he just takes with this rook. And yeah, I was like, I need to counterattack. He backs up. And I was like, I don't have a pawn. Yeah, this game came down to pawns. Yeah, I realized I didn't have a pawn. And then, in a last-ditch effort to get some pieces to counterattack, I was like, I'm going to bishop trade, which in reality was garbage move. I think I should have done... let's see what Engine is saying. It's saying 6-8 gold. Just to make my castle a little bit stronger. But here it is looking pretty rough for me. Instead of doing that, yeah, wow. It's suggesting I either castle or I swing my gold to 2-9 and possibly do like a subway style rook instead of a bishop exchange. And I actually thought a lot about a subway style rook, but I thought about it too late because I initiated the bishop exchange thinking the bishop is good for me. There's a lot of room here. There's a lot of good land for a bishop drop. And then he promotes here, and I was like, now I can bring my rook down, swing it over, and do an edge attack, or like something like this. I bring gold up, I bring rook down. I'm set, right? That's what I'm thinking here. And then I thought, for all of my Byoyomi, I was in Byoyomi at this point, I thought for 59 seconds, and you know what I realized? This rook is dead. If I bring it down, do y'all see the problem? I realized that. And yeah. I realized my rook, it was a goner. There was no saving it at this point. So I just promoted my pawn. I was like, this is more of an attack. Like, me taking with rook here just develops their dragon. I don't want them to develop a dragon right now. I'd rather this rook just be kind of in a weird, hard attack here. I just pawn promote. And what does it suggest I do here? 5-3 pawn promotion. Yeah. 5-3 pawn promotion, exactly. And that's what I do. I promote the pawn. And they take my rook. And the graph is starting to look bad, but I'm fighting back. I realized I was like, I just need pieces now. I have a bishop. I have a silver. I can Mino mate. I just need some pieces. And they drop rook here. Now this is a really interesting position. I thought this was threat mate. I thought this was, I mean, it's not threat mate, but this is a good rook drop. And I realized that, now, yeah, it's suggesting I just block with silver here, and that's exactly what I did. But let's say I didn't do that. Let's say I didn't block with silver here. Let's say I just take the gold like the greedy man I am. Yeah. That's what I saw. And that's what I was afraid of. Because if I take it, it's a 1 square up dragon. And it's game over at that point. It's literally just game over. And if I don't take it, exact same thing. Except probably worse now because this bishop is there. So this rook drop was really good. This rook drop was amazing. I didn't realize how weak my structure was until he did this rook drop. And notice it's all because I moved my knight up. It's all because I wanted to get crafty with my knight that this bishop drop was allowed to happen. And yeah, I was forced to defend here. So I just bring silver back. And now this is solid, but there's so much empty room in front of me and empty room over here. This castle is not going to last. Skykeeper realizes that he can just play defensive, not give me pieces. Now here it suggests, yeah, 4/4 gold. Just play defensive. 4/4 gold prevents me from promoting my bishop here or here. I'm pretty much forced to promote my bishop here or here if I'm wanting to do stuff like that, but it's kind of difficult. I just promoted it here to put pressure on his rook. And yeah, it's suggesting 1/9 bishop promotion. I mean, rook promotion. And that's exactly what he does. And yeah, it's just rough now. It's just rough. I didn't give up just yet. I was still in the fighting spirit. I was like, give me pieces or give me death. So he decided to give me death. And after he did this pawn drop, I told Time Zombie, because if you don't know, Shogi Explained, he's on Twitch. He's commentates World Shogi League. He does a whole bunch of cool shogi stuff on Twitch. Yeah, I told him on stream that as soon as this pawn drop happened, I did give up. This was the move that really tore me apart. Because I bring up gold. This is bad structure. He does silver. I was saying I bring up gold. He does silver. If I take, he has that bishop drop again. It's all comes down to that stupid bishop drop. And I didn't want that to happen. It's saying I should take here, but I'm curious to see what it's saying his next best move is. Yeah, it's even saying pawn here is pretty solid. Yeah, this is just tearing apart my castle, because he does pawn here if I take with gold. Like, he's just tearing apart my castle with all those pawns that I gave him earlier. And so I saw this, I took it. Wait, no I didn't. What did I do? Yeah, I was like, oh, it's a gold exchange. We each get a gold here. Right? I was like, yeah, I have pieces now. And he drops another pawn. And by here, I was crushed. Like, the graph is basically my mood throughout this game. The graph is the morale I had throughout this game. I was crushed here. I saw this move, and I almost resigned here, but I was like, no, it's the World Shogi League. I'm going to give it a fighting chance. I didn't want to take with silver. It's just bad. It's just bad. I didn't want to take with silver. I was just like, I'll play super defensive here. I don't have the pieces to play defensive, by the way. I don't have the pieces to play defensive because he drops another pawn. And I was crushed. I was defeated at this point. I knew taking this pawn was mate, but I was crushed. I was like, what do I do? I took the pawn. I accepted my fate. And there it is, white victory. The Sume engine is saying that this is Sume. And it is. And this is all self-explanatory stuff. He played this flawlessly. I tried my best to maybe run to here. If I can take this pawn, my king is exponentially safer. And Skykeeper is like, no, you're not getting that pawn. And I resigned in this position. If you don't know, this is just mate. I run up, it's gold. I block, it's mate, same thing. I run, it's mate, believe it or not. This was the point that I resigned, and that was the World Shogi League game. So, yeah. I don't have much more to say about it. I'm going to do some self-analysis, a lot of self-analysis, honestly, on just different variations. And it was really exciting to see that I could have played a more aggressive game and had it possibly even go in my favor. I was too afraid to do that. But it's interesting to see that I had that option, and next time I play an opposing Rook, who knows? Maybe it'll go in my favor. So, hope y'all enjoyed my analysis of my World Shogi League match. I wanted to have my face cam in this video to kind of show the expressions, the emotions I had in this game, because it's kind of hard to just convey that with voice. And I changed up my overlay and did all this stuff. And, this game was really good. I'm glad I could analyze it for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this style of video. Please let me know what I can do better, if it's editing out the little thinking time, if you want to see me go into these deep variations, let me know down in the comments. And it feels weird to be on YouTube and not have like that live chat, because I'm so used to doing Twitch for 2 years. It's weird to just say, hey, leave a comment, let me know what you think. But genuinely, do leave comments. It means a lot. Even if it's just saying hi, it does mean a lot, just because like it doesn't feel as lonely on YouTube with comments. That's a sad statement, but it's kind of true. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm looking forward to the future videos soon. I'm looking forward to my future matches. But for now, have a good rest of your weekend, and have a good rest of your week, or start of your week, whatever time you watch this. I hope you are enjoying, and just enjoying the little things in life. So, goodbye everyone. Have a good one.